thank you for having me here today. Great to be at your Leaders Forum. And I think that's a great word, that leaders. I think that's the bit we'll come back to during the course of this presentation, because you're all leaders in what you do, in where you are in BNI, whether you have a leadership role within your chapter, whether you're just one of the members in the chapter, you're all leaders. And that's a really important point, and I will definitely come back to that. But before we do anything, I'd just like to talk about why we do what we do, and talk about what what really a difference you're making just by being here. A lot of people come into BNI obviously to grow their business. I mean, that's the obvious starting point for why we do what we do. But it's about more than just the business. We like to see the referrals being passed. We like to see good weekly presentations. We like to see those numbers, all the Palms reports and Connect and all those sort of things. But really, it's about what the business does that makes the real difference for me. And it's the difference that the business makes. Does that business being passed, do those referrals being passed, does that extra turnover being added to your business, does that make a difference for you? Does that allow you to take different life choices? Does that allow you to put the kids through education or go away on nicer holidays when we can do that, obviously? And does it allow you to to live the life that you want to lead? That's what BNI is really all about for me. And the difference we make. This is the national tagline, if you like, or the why statement. Why we do what we do. Developing people and business to change lives in the rich communities. And you see this the whole time. When you see people develop, you'll have seen this in your chapters, you'll have seen people develop, you'll have seen their business go from one level to the next, maybe taking on new staff, putting another van on the road, taking on new contractors. Then it's not just helping your family, by the way, that's helping another family make the life choices they want. And that's a cool thing to be. When you see the business, developing people in business, seeing people's business move forward, maybe taking on different level contracts than they were able to originally. You see stories of where people start off with just doing small bits of business, and then they're getting dream opportunities into much bigger clients, things that really turn their business around. I just love to see that development of how people in the business moves forward. And then genuinely, as I say, we're changing lives. We are making a difference to the way people live life, particularly in the current circumstances. I mean, that's kind of obvious. I think it's now more than ever within BNI. We're all relying on our relationships to help us get us through. And maybe one day we'll be back in a case of what we perceive to be normal. But we're seeing, the life-changing effect of what BNI is doing. It's keeping businesses afloat. It's helping businesses move forward. Appreciate there are industries that are still massively struggling, but we're seeing those lives being changed through the difference that the referrals BNI generates makes. And then lastly, that enriching community piece. We talked about, I mentioned already, if you grow your business and you take on new staff, put new contractors, put a van on the road, that's helping another person in the community. But it's also the way that money recirculates around the economy. You receive £1, what should you do it? Yeah, you should invest it and save it and be sensible, but we don't always do that. We like to spend it. We're local business people. We like to particularly spend local as well. So every pound you receive will then get spent by you somewhere else. It'll get spent by them somewhere else, somewhere else, somewhere else. That happens 5 to 7 times. And whatever the state of the economy is in a good economy, it could be even higher than that as well. So, the difference that your chapters are making, just using round numbers just for the sake of my maths, no other reason, 2 million, thank you for the business done in your chapter would mean probably approaching more than 10 million difference to the local community. And that's something to really be proud of. You're making a difference just by turning up to your chapter every week and doing what you do. So that's about being a BNI member. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Let's talk a bit more about what we're going to focus on today. And, I was asked to talk, summing up a bit about what's going on recently, summing up a little bit about your role in the chapter. As I said, I want to focus on that word leaders, because in the title of this event, Leaders Forum. Maybe touch on a little bit about my journey as an unnatural networker. I'm going to see if I can build some of that in as well. But I'm going to start by talking about why. We hear the phrase "start with why." I mean, many of you will have read Simon. Make sure I've got the slide right there. We are. Make sure you'll have read Simon Sinek's book "Start with Why." If you haven't, you definitely should. It's the best book on leadership that I know, and it makes a massive. It's made a massive difference to what we do. That statement you just said before, developing people and businesses to change lives and rich communities, that comes from that state of mind. Just trying to think about why, and I think if anything, I've been asked a lot over the last few months about what we've learned through the course of the pandemic. And being an organisation where lifelong learning is one of our core values, I think I've really been pleased to take the opportunity to develop and learn wherever we can. And I see that a lot. I see our director teams doing that. I see members doing that a lot. And just see, there's opportunity to learn, develop and grow despite the fact there's tough surrounding conditions. And I think one of the key messages I've had for anyone is who's perhaps struggled over the last few months is to keep communicating your why, keep thinking about your why, and really keep talking about your why. And it's something that I wish I did more of. And so I'm going to do it more now, and I'm going to make, practice what I preach, if you like, and tell you about my why. And then maybe this will take us a little down the line of why I became an unnatural networker, or why I realised I am, and I'd say why I became an unnatural, why I am an unnatural networker. Let's put it that way. And I'm going to go back in time. What am I saying? Till maybe late teens, somewhere there. I'm going to say 16, 17, that sort of age, just to give you a perspective of my mindset. I'm not great at remembering a lot of details about the early part of my life, but this one particularly stands out for me. And if you can picture the scene, it's me and my family, my immediate family. So there's my mum and dad, and I've got two sisters. I've got one either side. I'm older sister and a younger sister, and I can confirm that middle children definitely have it the hardest. I'm sure you're with me on that one. And anyway, it's a sort of family dinner table, and it's a weekend. Perhaps it's getting closer, drawing into winter, so it's cold and dark outside, but it's nice and warm and cozy inside. And it's the weekend, so it's a bit more relaxed. People aren't rushing off to go and do what they need to do. They're just sort of relaxing, having a nice time, and enjoying it. And you know how often people in families sort of take up different roles? That's really what happened here, because often my elder sister, this is Anthea, her name is, she's very, I don't say quite high powered, she's quite intense. She loves to debate, she loves to argue and get into the issues or whatever it might be. And usually it would be Anthea who would start up a conversation. And it might have been about anything particularly going on. It might have been about some sort of social issue, something, events of the day, some sort of political issue. It doesn't really matter what it was, but she'd start up the conversation. And you know what? My mind would sink slightly. And I'll try and tell you why. Because inevitably, in that family dinner table scenario, Anthony would start the conversation. It would usually be my dad who would bite next, and he'd really get engaged in a debate. They'd either disagree or agree or disagree. It didn't really matter, but they'd engage in debate. And then my younger sister would come in to a certain extent, and my mum would come in to a certain extent. But there was always one person who didn't, and that was me. I never felt I had the confidence to put my opinion forward. I never felt I had enough to say. I never felt my opinion was worthwhile. Partly because that's my elder sister. She shouted me down quite a lot. She is quite intense. That's just what happened. But it just developed over time. And I would inevitably resort to my specific role in the family of chief piss taker. Honestly, that was my role. And I'd take the mickey out of stuff. And I probably wouldn't engage in the conversation in the way that I'd like to think I would now. But that was the thing. It defined my way of being. It defined my way of thinking. It kind of defined my internal story that said, yeah, I'm not very confident about talking about my opinion. I'm not very confident about talking about it. I mean, remember, these are my family, so I know them as well as anyone. When it comes to a stranger, when it comes to someone who I'm not really sure about, then the confidence level really drops. And this is, remember, when I'm 16, 17, this is the time when you're supposed to be young, free and single and, hopefully getting out there and experiencing the world. And I don't know, I just don't feel I did. And I think that's where my realization that I was an unnatural networker came from. I probably didn't realize it at the time, honestly. That was the formative period. And it was only much later that I realized that actually, yeah, there are a lot of other people who have this lack of confidence about what they have to say, what they have to contribute to the world, whether it means going to talk to people or getting an opinion across. And definitely where I realised that, or where the formative part of me being an unnatural networker came. And there's an update to this now, as obviously Louise talked about in the start there. Yeah, there's lots of tools and tips you can use. There's learn skills, and I wish I knew now. I wish I knew then what I know now. My life as a 16, 17-year-old would have been very different in terms of how I just understand that, look, we're all people, we can chat to people, it's no problem. But that's my confidence, matter of confidence, the issue of a matter of confidence. So there's an update to that as well. My second book is now virtually done. It actually got sent to the publisher on Friday, and it's very much a continuation of the theme of the unnatural network. It's called the unnatural promoter. There's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable shouting about themselves. Simple fact is, I can give you a slight spoiler alert, but it'll be help in terms of what the book's all about. Is, if you don't feel comfortable promoting yourself, then going networking is a great thing to do, because if you can build relationships with a group of people in a networking context, well, then they'll go and shout about you, they'll go and promote you, and it's much easier that way. Anyway, that's for the future. The great irony, of course, of the book called The Unnatural Promoter is I've now, as it's coming out, I'm going to have to go now and promote it, and that scares me witless, obviously, but we'll come to that. But I think it all derives from my why. And the more you talk about your why, I've committed to myself to talking about my why more. I don't think I talk about it enough. I try and do it more. I hear people who, I'm going to take Mike Holman as a great example. Very clear, Mike is about his why and why he does what he does. And I think it's really inspiring. It really gets people going. It's not just about telling people, facts and it's about stories, about people, it's about emotion, it's about real situations that we can often identify with ourselves. Even if we don't necessarily see exactly the same thing in ourselves, we can identify ourselves with that. And I think for me, the case is there's a lot of unnatural networkers out there. There's a lot of unnatural promoters out there who just won't go networking, won't come and see what networking can offer. Maybe they've had a bad experience, maybe a hard salter. We all get that from time to time with networking. Maybe they're just a bit too shy to take that leap as well. And that's really what my passion in life is now. I've realised now that I'm there to kind of guide and lead these people who have no confidence at all, not enough confidence how to network, to come in and see how it is possible. As the sort of sub headline of the book there says, how anyone can succeed at networking. That's really what I think it's all about. So yeah, first lesson from the last year would be keep talking about your why. Talk about your why as much as you can, because that's what inspires people. That's what gets people going. Let's move on to the next subject from I've taken from the last year, and I think this is about clear communications. Communications has been really important in the last year, and it's been a big part of our role in terms of running BNI in the UK. Tim and myself as national directors, working with our team of executive directors, working with the director consultant team, and helping and supporting members through the challenges we've had. And I'll give you an example of where this comes. What I mean by clear communications is not only saying what you've got to say, but saying it over and over again. Now, you may well have read this book, you may not have, doesn't matter if you haven't, and it's about a political figure, so that will immediately could potentially lead you towards this or against it. Don't judge it from a political point of view, but many of you will remember Alistair Campbell, Tony Blair's PR spin guy, and he wrote an excellent book, and it's well worth picking up. And he talks about lots of things. There's lots of stories, political stories. He's into sports as well, so if you're into sports, you'd enjoy it from that point of view. But he talks a lot about communication is one of the key things. That was his thing. He was a PR guy, and he says that he would look out. So when, let's say, Blair or one of the government ministers at the time was rolling out a policy or giving a briefing to the press and the TV cameras and so forth, Alistair Campbell would spend his time during that. He wouldn't look at what Tony Blair was doing, wouldn't look at what the minister was doing. He would look entirely at the row of hats in the front row. And he'd be looking for one particular reaction. He wanted to see them go like this, sort of rolling their eyes, tipping their head back, going, oh, they're on about this again. Because if he saw that, then he knew that the message was getting through. Communication isn't just about saying what you want to say, it's about saying it over and over and over and over again. Because the fact is that people aren't always listening. Sometimes their headspace is in a different place. Sometimes they're distracted by something else. Sometimes they'll take the message in and then they need to be reminded of it. It's just the way it works. And I'll give you a great example of where this has come up for us nationally, and it leads us on to a big part of what's going on in the next few months in BNI. And obviously, we all know that we've transitioned BNI just over a year ago to online meetings. That was a big a massive job, and it was a job well done. I think it, everyone came together and got everyone working. Lots of leadership teams did an amazing job. They were trained to run an in-person meeting, and suddenly, sorry, you're running it online, and that was, it just had to be the way, because that's just what happened just over a year ago. But a big part now, or has been for a number of months, and it rumbles up and down depending on where the situation is with the pandemic in the country, is to say, well, one day we might well have in-person meetings again. When will that happen? When could that happen? What will be the case? How will that work? And I think this has been a real big part of where we've been trying to communicate the right message consistently, and have to keep communicating the message. The message being, we're not going to do anything until it's safe. The safety of members is absolutely paramount. We're not going to put anyone at risk. Clearly, governmental guidelines have to come into it. We can't do anything unless it's legal to do so. But then also, there's just the ways and means in which we can make that happen. And I'd like to just come on to that to just talk a little bit about what the next steps might well be here. But the point being, over the course of the year, and what I would suggest as leaders we all do, is keep communicating in a clear way, but a consistent and continued way, where we keep saying what we're saying, so it just gets the message over. And this is really the message when it comes now, turning to how those in-person meetings and how we're dealing with the pandemic might come. We've been sort of comparing it to this scene. If you ever go mountain climbing, maybe you're not going quite this sort of hardcore mountain climbing. Maybe it's just walking up some of the hills around about, in, I don't know, North Wales or Pennines, or in Snowdonia, or somewhere, Lake District, somewhere like that. And when you're walking up those hills, those mountains, sometimes you see the ridge in front of you, and it's a bit of a climb, and you're working hard at it, and you're working, you think, oh, you're nearly at the summit. And then you come over the top, just over the brow, and what happens? You see another huge summit behind, or another big hill, another big climb to conquer after. And I think that, for me, feels where the country is at with the pandemic at the moment. It feels like we're so close. We've been going through such a hard slog, and it's just been wonderful to see probably the smile on people's faces, just as restrictions have started to ease in the last few weeks. Particularly yesterday, obviously, was a big one for a lot of businesses, a lot of people, with the non-essentials shops, gyms, and pubs opening again. Just seeing that smile is wonderful, but it still feels like we've got a good way to go. That's how it feels to me. We'll all have our different take on it, but that's how it feels to me at the moment. It still feels to me, we've been climbing, we've just got over that brow of the hill, and we've seen, hang on, there's still a bit more to go here. We've still got a way to go. And yeah, for me, this is where in-person meetings are at the moment. In-person meetings are still at the very peak of the next summit. We're still some way away from that. Look, we are going to make it happen as and when we can. Like I said, it's got to be safe, it's got to be legal, it's got to be the right thing to do for members all over the place. We will want to make it happen, and the date we all know, and we've got our hopes pinned on, is June the 21st. And okay, subject to obviously anything changing in the meantime. I'm not going to try and second guess that. Obviously, it's a fast moving picture at any stage of the planet. We learned that over the last year. But if that does happen, then we've got an option to at least then start thinking about where we might go. What we've said from a national point of view is, assuming the 21st happens, I'm assuming there's no slippage from a governmental point of view, but assuming that happens, no BNI meetings will happen until July the 5th at the very earliest. We're going to give a 2-week buffer, just so we're not the first things to go back. We're not going to make that happen at all. But where you as leaders in your chapters, some of you will be on leadership teams, what you need to be thinking about at the moment is just what the mood is for your chapter. Where do you feel you want to be as a group? Do you want to be an in-person meeting? Do you want to take the benefits of online? There's two sides to the story. Obviously, there's two ways it can go, and there's a lot of benefits of either side. I still love the fact that in-person meetings, I think they're a fundamental part of why BNI has been so successful, and the relationships that you can build and successfully cultivate in a room of people. But we've also seen over the course of the last year that online meetings have been fantastically successful. And if you look at thank you for the business levels, that's being just one key indicator of where things are going, we're seeing pretty much better results now, a year, well, we're we're now comparing to a year ago, that would be bad. But if you're comparing to just pre-pandemic, we're seeing very similar. Thank you for the business, if not better in some weeks. So the point is, it works. What we've got to do is look for another, as leadership team members and as chapter leaders, is look at another key leadership trait. What people really want from their leaders is certainty. And if you are certain about it and you have confidence about where you want to be and what you want to do, your members are looking for certainty from you. What does your chapter want to do? Have you talked to your director consultant about it? Have you started thinking about that process? That's where I encourage you to be. I'm talking at a high level here. It's that certainty, I think, that's going to make a difference. But in the meantime, there's still an opportunity, and I want to just talk about that for a moment, because it's one thing saying, yeah, we'll hang our hat on when we can be in person again, or there's definitely chapters around the country that are just thinking, no, I'm just definitely going to stay online. We're very good with this. But there's definitely going to be some question marks about how things move forward. And I think that's something for us to manage the business. If we thought it was a big job to move everyone online, it's going to be a bigger job as we transition some chapters back to in-person meetings. And I think the key message I've got for any BNI member now is, look, maximize the opportunities you've got. Don't wait until we are back to, quotes, normal. Not that we'll ever really know what normal is, because I think the whole world's changed. You've got an opportunity. I mean, BNI has always been about building relationships. One of our core values. We all know that. We know that that's the reason why BNI is successful. The relationships that chapters, members and chapters develop, that's where the business comes from. So you've got a real opportunity now to get yourself in a right place for when the market does, or the economy does open up, and really the restrictions do loosen. So really focus on those relationships right now. Double down on getting the relationships right, so that they're there and in place for when the market does open up. And you've got the right tool to do that. BNI Online is a fantastic tool to do that. And as more and more as restrictions do open, obviously you can still meet people face to face or in person for a coffee. Won't be, well, pretty much, yeah. Power teams can meet. It'd be outside at the moment, but you can start to bring some of those elements in to add in to the BNI Online product. And I'd also suggest that there's opportunities for you as a chapter, and we go back to the community here. There are other local businesses. We all know that businesses are suffering, or many industries are still suffering. Lots of businesses are suffering, and I think it's something we owe to the local community. We believe that BNI is a great product. I think with the results that we're seeing, and we've got lots of members who know that BNI is a great product. What we've got to do is give those people give other people the opportunity to come and experience it themselves. Don't keep it a secret. Get it out there. Tell people to come and have a look and see what's going on. We're seeing across the country some amazing results. We've never had as many launches. This is across the whole of the UK and Ireland. We've got more members in what we call our pipeline. That's the launches, the new chapters that are forming at the moment. There are more members in that pipeline than we've ever had before at any time. And that's in the whole history of BNI. So there's clearly a lot of demand for the BNI product. There's also a higher visitor rates than we typically see. We see people joining chapters a lot. There's some great things that are happening. There's chapters that are growing fast. There's real opportunities, and I think there's a real sense that there's an opportunity out there to make a difference to the community and keep people in the right place. So I'd encourage you to take that opportunity, keep building those relationships, keep bringing people into your chapter to help them and widen the story that's going on, the good news story that you're already creating in your chapter. I want to just come back as well to this point that BNI members are leaders. All BNI members are leaders, and it doesn't matter whether you're in a leadership team position in your chapter, whether you're on the committee or on one of the top 3 leadership team positions, or whether you're a member and you have no other part in terms of a leadership role in the chapter. You are leaders, and in fact, all people in BNI are leaders, and that makes being a leader within BNI the hardest job in the world. I want to depress you, by the way, but that's the case. If you're a leadership team, if you've just taken over as a leadership team member, you have got the hardest job in the world. I'll see if I can just qualify that and explain that. Because sometimes think of who BNI's members are. BNI's members are entrepreneurs in the main. Appreciate there are some employees for sure, but BNI members are entrepreneurs. Why do people become entrepreneurs? People become entrepreneurs because they want to have control of their own destiny. They want to do their own thing. They don't want a boss telling them what to do. They want to lead. So when you tell an entrepreneur, right, this is the way you've got to do it, how does that go down? Not very well, is the obvious answer. You can't tell people what to do. Here's the problem with a lot of what people do. They look at the process and say, right, this is how we can make BNI work. Here's the process. Follow this and you'll get results. But the natural entrepreneurial instinct amongst us says, no, that's not going to happen. We're not going to make that. We're not going to do that. What we've got to do instead is think about it this way round. We're going to think about action, people, and then process. Let's just break that down. I want to finish with this point, because this is sort of the summary to success, if you like, of being a leader in BNI. If you can get people excited with your passion, lead with the passion, get people really motivated, well, then they're excited. They want to follow. They follow your passion. That's why we start with the why. The why is our passion. That's why we do what we do. And that gets people on side. That gets people excited. Then, once they're excited, well, tell us the process. I want to know that. I see where we're trying to get to. Tell me how I did it. And that's where the process comes in. The challenge is sometimes people lead with the process. Lead with the process, you won't get them going. Lead with the passion, that'll get people excited, and then they'll want to know what the process is. So that it doesn't really matter what process you're trying to follow. You're trying to up the referral rates in your chapter. Don't talk about how to do it, the detail and tools and tricks you need to do it, the process. Talk to people about why doing it's a good thing. Start with why. We've heard that one before. Share the passion for it, get people on side, and they'll say, great, show us how it's done. So if you can do that, I think you'll see a great success over the next few months. It's going to be an interesting ride as the country, hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers, starts to move towards the end of how the pandemic's going to be hitting us. Who knows exactly how that's going to play out? I can't tell you. I talked about certainty. I can't tell you everything. Clearly, I think we're all aware of that. But if we can lead with passion, I think that'll set us off in the right way. So with that, I'll hand back over to Liam and Louise and say thank you very much for listening. I hope you found that useful. I hope there's something in that for you, and look forward to seeing how the regions here and the success of the members continues moving forward. Thank you very much.